Hey there, I'm with my friend Izzy here, who's a long-term collaborator with me. So she has done various album single artworks for me. She has created two lyric videos for me as well. And what we're going to talk about now is the practicalities of working with a graphic designer slash animator, visual creator, the practicalities of doing that as a musician. So the first question is how. So we met by chance at a gig, but what are some ways that that a musician, an artist, could go about finding someone like yourself that already works with musicians or is perhaps open to that?
Yeah, I think, of course, the best way is to actually find people in your circle. So, people you maybe know, maybe they've created artworks for your friends, because that way you have already that guarantee that, first of all, they can deliver, you can have a friendly chat with them, and it's maybe simpler than scrolling through artists on Instagram. However, it's not a bad idea as well. There are some accounts on Instagram that curate artworks, so you can just go, and I think one of them is Women of Illustration, um, which present artists from all around the world, so you can actually collaborate with someone on the other side of the planet. However, I think it's always nice to be able to sit together, chat about it, chat about what you want to do. I think we talked about also something like, there's degree shows, art shows where you can actually meet people exhibiting their work. Yeah, so either online or in person. I think it's really up to you how you want to have that collaboration. Do you want to uh, perhaps maybe establish more long-term collaboration? How much influence you want to have over the artwork? Because quite often artists have their set style, and maybe they always want to work within that style. So would you want to kind of use their aesthetics, or would you kind of want to come and say, hey, I want to do this and that, but they don't really do it? It's like similar with, I think, tattoo artists. It's like, well, I have my own style. I don't want to do, let's say, I don't know, botanical tattoo if I want to do just, I don't know, faces, right, or portraits.
Yeah, I think so. Something to take into account, and it's the whole premise of this interview with Izzy, is that don't think of it as just a product that you're buying. You're not buying something off the shelf, and it's not like you can just fill out a form of specifications and that you will just receive this product. You can jump on Fiverr and you can
Yeah.
ask somebody to do something for $5 or $10, and they will have templates that
Yeah.
they use so that they can quickly do 20 of those a day, and if that's what you want to, that's what you want to do. But the perspective that and the whole premise of this interview, and why why I work together with somebody like Izzy is, when you want something more than that, when you want to develop an aesthetic, or when you are thinking about the visual language of that accompanies your music, and that encompasses branding and the fonts that you use, and the filters on your photos on Instagram, and part of that is the artwork. And so, yeah, what the mindset that you have to have, in my opinion, is to find somebody that is going to be a collaborator with you,
Yeah.
something that you're going to do together. And when you and this goes back to what you were saying about being aware that that artists have certain styles. Obviously, sometimes they're willing to explore new things and accommodate what you want to explore, but don't expect them to, if this artist is known for drawing something more abstract, and then you said, oh, actually I want a really hyper realistic portrait. Maybe they can do it, maybe, but it's not something that is their style of working. So think about, it's not about finding somebody that you're going to pay to make a product for you. You're looking for somebody to collaborate with. I think that's the perspective to have. Absolutely.
I think especially it's good to find also someone you really like the style of. I think it's okay. It seems that there are so many people who actually style is quite flexible, and they could take cues, or they could take, for example, mood boards from you, or just ideas, and capable to make it to a new thing, your own thing. Yeah.
So it's something that I don't think you should. Hopefully you have the time. It's not something I think you should rush into, really. Hopefully you have the time to. So before you have music out, you should be out there making relationships with visual creative people, so that when the time comes when you have some music, you have you know what they're about to an extent, so that when you then approach them with something concrete, like, okay, I've got a need for some artwork for some music, that you know a bit about them, you know a bit about their style, they know about you as well, so that it can be a collaboration. So in terms of the practicalities, say that, okay, I'm an artist, I found the person that's going to do my single artwork.
Sure.
What are some of the practicalities? So time, money, like how does it go? How if I send you an email or speak to you in person, say, hey, I'd like you to do some artwork for my next single.
Fabulous. So I think, there is obviously the producery side of things. So we definitely need to know what kind of budget are you willing to work with. That kind of tells us what is possible. So for example, now we have digital tools, so it's easier to create something quite simply. Sometimes we need to we have digital brushes as well that sometimes we need to purchase for particular artwork. So every artist will have their own budget, and that sometimes is depending, like, is it day rate or is it per artwork? It really varies, so you need to kind of talk about it with your collaborator. Budget, timeline, when do you need it for? It needs to be very clearly communicated, and it's always good to set enough time for revisions, because it's good to have, I think in my opinion, it's always good to first work with a very rough draft and then send it, because we can talk about ideas, which is really good. However, it's always good to have already something fleshed out. So
and that's the point where something that might be obvious to you, but that you haven't communicated. For example, you might have the requirement. Oh, my band logo must always appear in this color. For example, like you always, your band logo is always in red, but you didn't think to communicate that at the time. And then when you get the kind of the early ideas back, then and the designer put it in white, you can mention, oh, by the way, we always have it in red. And so it's better to know that. It's better to know all of that up front. But sometimes those things kind of just.
Of course, you don't think about it. Absolutely, yeah. And then at that time of the sketch, we don't. It's not like we're committing already to a final product. It's still like journeys. We're still exploring some ideas, so it's still a good time to say, hey, actually, I don't want to have 3 people. I want to have 2 people in illustration, or Something else. I mean, yeah, logos. How big does it need to be in proportion to other elements in the artwork? Like, what are the things that you definitely don't want as well? Like, I think this is really good. Like, I remember at the beginning you said, oh, I don't want that particular font for the title of the single. I remember you said like this, like a gothy.
Okay.
Yes, you said, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, it's good to know also what you don't want.
Yeah, I mean,
helpful.
the hard thing as a musician sometimes is that you don't know what you don't like or like until you see it, and I appreciate that's it's a hard thing in the beginning to discover, to talk about what you exactly want, and the more preparation you can do in advance, the better, in terms of so this is where well, actually, let's just pause for a second before we go to even this. Let's just talk a minute, just before we go into this. Let's talk quickly about the practicalities again, because we discussed some of the budgets and how that goes. But so, if you, it would just be better to put it in writing, right? Just to have like, okay, and discuss it. Like, it's not like, I don't think you can. It's something you just have to figure out between the two of you, right? So don't feel like everything should be up for discussion. So if you for example say, okay, I have this much money to spend, then the artist can come back to say, okay, that I can or cannot do the work for that much money, and then you can say, okay, how many revisions do I get for that? And then the artist will say, okay, you get 2 or 3 revisions maybe, and you might say, is it possible that if I wanted more revisions that could happen? And then the artist might say, no, I only do 2 or 3, or they might say yes, but that will cost you extra money for each additional,
extra time as well, because
everything's up for discussion, really. I mean, there's no rules about it, but it's best to have the up front. Okay, this is how much I want to spend. The formats that I would like it in, JPEGs and PNGs, and the sizes, you will know from the platforms where you're uploading it to how big it needs to be.
Yeah.
So just be clear about what you want. The artist will come back with what they can deliver, the timelines, discuss that between yourselves, discuss the amount of revisions, and once again, keep in mind that it's a collaboration. So there's always going to be some revisions and requests, but you might have an idealized image in the back of your head of what the final image of what the final artwork will be, that can never be attained, if as it were. And the reason for that is because it's just an emotion that you have. It's not you, and so no image that's been created will be able to satisfy a feeling that you have, and you'll, if you're thinking about it in that way, you'll always think, oh, this is not right, this is not quite right, this is not quite right. And the reason for that is that it's got nothing to do with the image, it's got to do with that you're searching for some kind of feeling that won't be fulfilled. I know that sounds a bit deep and weird, but I think if you come at it from the point of view that it's going to be a collaboration, then that will be a better better frame of mind to come from.
Yeah, it's managing the expectations, isn't it? Yeah, it's tricky. We always, even as an artist, we have this image in your head. It's like, and you start drawing it, and then color, and you look at it. It's nothing like what I had in my head, but this is the reality of things.
It's the same with the music that we make, right? Yeah. You have this idealized idea of what your music is going to be, and then the reality of it is going to be different, and you. And it's going to approximate in some way the idealized image you have, and you have to accept that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can, at the end of it, you can still really like your music and enjoy it and love it, but it's never going to approach some kind of idealized vision that you have. And when you're starting out as a musician, first recording, there's that you have this weird sense of disappointment. You're like, oh, I'm not as amazing as I thought it was in my head. But yeah, so come at it from the right point of view, so that you, because you might find yourself requesting endless revisions, right? Because again, you're trying to approach some idealized vision that can't be attained, and no amount of revisions will ever fix that feeling that you have.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and also quite often, again, it's about that initial response to music that is pure, that is like almost intuitive. And when we do like millions of revisions, it can get lost, washed out, it's muddy, there's too many ideas sometimes, so that quite often the initial reaction is quite right, actually. I don't know. I think the other way, when I was working with composers as well, I always had to trust their first response, because that was very much like from their heart. So yeah, let's go with that. But of course you can then tweak things and change, but not the core idea, kind of. Yeah, anyway.